Well, hello, it's Andrew here yet again. Now, today we are continuing in our series on Matthew. Today is episode 201. And in our last episode, we looked at Pilate effectively passing Jesus to death and having him flogged and handed over to his soldiers. So we pick up the narrative of at chapter 27, verses 27 through to 31. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. We might ask, why did the soldiers do this to Jesus? What's going on that they would mistreat him like this, seek to humiliate him in this way? I sat with this. I want to suggest today that they did this in order for them to make what they are required to do, what they have been ordered to do, what it is their order of business to do, possible. At least psychologically and emotionally for them. They need to bring Jesus down. I imagine that he conducted himself with a measure of dignity, even given the flogging that he had just been through. A measure of calmness, perhaps even serenity. This is something that comes from the inside. It's who he was at the core. And the soldiers know it's their job to crucify him. A brutal form of execution. And surely it must have been hard to do. It strikes at the very core of the humanity of the executioner. Knowing that you're driving blunt spikes through the hands and feet of another human being while they struggle and writhe. It must do something to you and your own sense of self, your own humanity. And the way to deal with this is to dehumanize the victim, to cast them as deserving or as less than human, certainly less than oneself. The Nazis did this to the Jews. They treated them, spoke to them and spoke of them as being subhuman. They took away their names and branded them with numbers, referred to them as pigs or as insects, a favourite one being the use of the word cockroaches, something you grind underfoot. The Hutus did the same to the Tutsis in the 1990s Rwandan genocide. Biologically, genetically, they are the same people. The Belgian colonisers a century plus before, in the early days of colonisation, divided them according to appearance and promoted those that they thought more handsome and beautiful. They designated them as Tutsi and relegated the others, now called Hutus, to being a servant class. Yet they were exactly the same people. The ultimate outcome was genocide of 1994, where up to 1 million of the Tutsis' ruling class was slaughtered. And one of the favourite Hutu descriptions of them on public radio was, yes, cockroaches. Such dehumanisation makes such violence not only possible, but can seem desirable. It becomes the right thing to do. So, to Jesus, dehumanizing him, taking him down, showing him to be deserving of what was about to happen was important to his executioners. Were they worse than us? They are us. Perversely, at one level, it shows their humanity, that they needed to do this in order to stay sane, in order to be human, to be able to simply take people out and crucify them without having justified to themselves what they are doing would, I suggest, ultimately cast them into the category of psychopath. The normal human psyche needs to be able to justify to itself in some way such terrible behaviour. As I said, they are us. To return to a well-worn path, we see it in our own politics. Just dipping in a little into social media as our own recent general election campaign was underway. We see it in the way that people either demonised or lauded either Jacinda Ardern or Judith Collins at our last election. Depending on your political stripe, you'd see one in one way, the other in the other. We see it continuing to unfold in the USA, where each half of the population cannot understand how the other half voted for and support the person they abhor, while rejecting the one that they adore, or at least approve of, as decent or truthful. Each group is sure that they are right, that the other group are either pure evil or mentally deficient. My expectation is that blood will flow in the streets of America before this is over. My fear is that it could be quite a lot of blood. I remember listening to Tony Campolo on Radio New Zealand some years ago. As well as being a Christian activist and a Baptist pastor, he's a sociologist by training. I remember him saying, we sociologists know that people can live without a God, but they can't live without a devil. We need to have someone to blame. Isn't that the truth? There needs to be an other that we can demonise, that we can put responsibility on for all that's gone wrong. We all do it, one way or another. We all do it. When seen in this light, the actions of these soldiers are not so unusual. In fact, it's probably necessary for their own survival. A little reflection will allow us to see that they are us. This is one of the reasons that I never enjoy reading, thinking too deeply, or speaking on the narrative surrounding the trial, crucifixion and death of Jesus. It cuts a little too close to the bone. Uncomfortable, isn't it? God bless you.